Identity and Access Management, Part 11. UEBA, User and Entity Behavior Analytics, is a cybersecurity technology that uses machine learning and data analytics to track, learn, and analyze the behavior of users and entities within an organization's network. Think of UEBA as a intelligent security assistant that knows what's normal and alerts you when something isn't. So, how UEBA supports zero trust? Well, zero trust is based on the principle never trust, always verify. UEBA strengthens this principle by continuously analyzing how users and entities behave, creating a baseline of normal behavior, detecting anomalies or risky actions, feeding risk scores to conditional access policies, and triggering automated IAM responses. Example: a user logs in from India, then in 5 minutes he later logs in from Brazil. What UEBA sees? It's impossible to travel. So what does zero trust would do? Block or trigger an MFA. Second scenario, a server suddenly accesses sensitive HR data. This is an unusual pattern as per UEBA. Hence, zero trust will raise an alert and isolate the session. Next, a user downloads 10x the usual data volume. UEBA sees this as data exfiltration risk. Zero trust would temporarily suspend the access. An IoT device starts communicating with unknown IPs. UEBA sees this as a suspicious behavior. Zero trust would notify the SOC and block the traffic. Hope you understand how this handshake works between UEBA and zero trust action. So, user and entity behavior analytics is critical in zero trust environment. So, how does it work? It starts with data collection. It gathers the log from IAM tools, endpoints, servers, cloud apps, and network traffic. It learns patterns like login times, device type, geolocations, access frequency. From a risk scoring perspective, it assigns a risk score to each action or sessions. From an alerting and action perspective, high risk behaviors are flagged and actions are taken automatically or manually. Let's look at the capability perspective. Well, the tools are the standard one that we discussed earlier, but from our perspective, if you look at it, UAB integration from Microsoft Entra ID perspective, it uses Azure AD protection and it helps anomaly detection, risk-based cap enforcement. From Okta, it helps in adaptive MFA, location and device profiling. From ping identity perspective, it helps with context-aware access and behavior modeling. From IBM security verifier perspective, it helps with session risk scoring and policy tuning. From SailPoint perspective, it helps in risk-based access certifications and recertifications. From a CyberArk perspective, it helps detect risky behaviors on privileged accounts. The key benefits of UEBA is makes access decisions smarter by using behavioral data. It helps verify identity beyond just login. It catches insiders, compromised accounts, and misconfigurations. It triggers MFAs, session lockdowns, or ticket creations automatically. It provides behavior trails and anomaly insights for forensic audit. From a best practice perspective of implementing UEBA in Zero Trust, integrates with IAM, SIM, and cloud logs. Define what normal looks like for different roles. Set clear thresholds and automated responses for high risk behaviors. Combine UEBA with CAP and JIT access enforcement. Regularly review and fine tune behavior model. Hence, in summary, UEBA uses behavioral data and analytics to detect threat. It supports zero trust by enabling dynamic risk scoring and continuous verification. It's ideal for insider threat detection, adaptive access control, session monitoring. Let's now look at from a checklist perspective. From a checklist perspective, first is to defining the goal of UEBA. Second is identifying key stakeholders. Could be IAM team, security ops team, compliance team, IT team, etc. Once done, then you have to integrate the log source, followed by ensuring coverage of both users and entity behaviors. Entity here is service account, devices, etc. Once done, then you develop behavioral baseline. This baseline is per user type, per role, per entity. Once done, then you set the threshold and assign risk score for anomalies. Then integrate UEBA with IAM tools to enforce the CAP or the conditional access policy. Integrate the UEBA with IAM tool to enforce CAP. That's the sequence. Define automated actions, whether it is revoking, whether it is alerting, whether it is triggering MFA or so. Once done, review high risk alert weekly and refine risk models periodically. Ensure UEBA logs and actions are auditable and aligned with compliance goals. Next is SDP or software defined perimeter. Software defined perimeter is a security framework that hides infrastructure from unauthorized users by making systems invisible until trust is established. It creates dynamic identity based perimeters that control access to application and services, not networks. Controls access to applications and services. Think of it as a virtual security layer where only authorized, authenticated users can see and access what they are permitted to. Like a need to know invisibility cloak for your IT assets. So, how SDP aligns with zero trust? Well, software defined perimeter is or it's used in zero trust. Zero trust assumes no implicit trust, not even inside the network. So, software defined perimeter enforces this principle by verifying identity and device posture before allowing access. Helps in creating per session, per user encrypted tunnel to the application. It hides all services from public exposure, creating a zero attack surface. It dynamically segments access per user, per app. So, how does software defined perimeter work? Well, first is a user or a system tries to connect to a resource. The IAM verifies the user's identity. Then the device and the network risk is evaluated. Based on the identity and the context, access is granted or denied. Then, a temporary encrypted tunnel is created only to the allowed resource. This is where the SDP uniqueness comes in. It creates a temporary encrypted tunnel. It's created only to the allowed resources. And if it is not authorized, the resource doesn't even appear to exist. So, key component of SDP? Well, the client, which is software agent or browser that initiates a request. The policy engine, which makes access decision based on identity, role, risk, and context. The controller, which orchestrates the connection setup between user and apps. The gateway, which enforces access, authenticates identity, and brokers the sessions. The resource, which is the protected application, database, or service, which remains hidden if not authenticated in the first place. Benefits of SDP in zero trust model. First, assets are invisible unless access is approved. Tunnels are created per session and closed after use. It limits lateral movement across the network. The access is based on identity, device, location, and risk. SDP replaces or enhances VPNs with app level security, and applications are not exposed. In fact, less to the target. They reduce the surface, attack surface. Now let's look at a comparison between SDP and traditional VPN. In VPN, it has a full network access. In SDP, it's app level access only. From a visibility perspective, user can see all the resources. With SDP, only allowed apps are visible. The trust model in VPN is implicit trust after login. But in SDP, it is continuous verification. From a security perspective, VPN has a static tunnel. With SDP, it's dynamic tunnel with posture checks. From a zero trust perspective, VPN is considered weak in comparison to SDP. SDP is considered stronger. The tools that support SDP, well, you have quite a few. You have Zscaler Private Access, Google Beyond Crop, Cisco Duo, Akamai Enterprise, AppGate SDP, Cloudflare Zero Trust, etc. Capabilities is full SDP with posture checks, or components via device trust or identity aware app level access. So each tool would have their own capabilities. Some of them would have multiple capabilities. You can choose the one which works best for you for the money that you invest. In summary, the purpose of SDP in Zero Trust is to hide and protect application via dynamic identity driven access. Its core principle is authenticate before connect. It replaces the legacy VPNs and static firewalls. The outcome, you have a reduced attack surface, better control, and stronger zero trust alignment. Now let's take this from a checklist perspective, how to go about with it. The first step in this would be define the SDP or your SDP objective, aligning it with your zero trust strategy. This is the first step. Ensure the identity provider is integrated for access decisions. Then evaluate the device posture. Create per app policy based on the identity, role, and risk level. Deploy SDP controllers and gateways close to the application or services. Tag and segment applications to enforce app level boundaries. Enable integration with SIEM, EDR, and IAM systems. Configure continuous logging and anomaly detection for access sessions. Next is align policy enforcement with regulatory control. Once all this is done, test for a frictionless access across remote, mobile, and hybrid use. Test it. If not done with all scenarios included, you would have serious issues when you implement it. Post implementation, if you don't want service issues to come up or a raise in incident tickets, you need to do the testing extensively. Next, let's look at RBAC, ABAC. We discussed this in our earlier videos, but let's do a refresh here. IAM best practice and strategy recommendation adopts role based and attributes based access control. Balance operation efficiency with granular control by implementing RBAC and now what are RBAC and ABAC? Well, RBAC is role based access control, ABAC is attribute based access control. The difference? Well, in RBAC, it grants access based on user jobs, roles. Roles are predefined and linked to a set of permissions. That's role based. From a attribute based, it grants access based on multiple attributes about the user, device, action, environment. Attributes can include department, clearance level, location, time, device status, etc. So, why use them? Well, these access model help limit access to only what's necessary, form of a least privilege. It reduces manual provisioning and enforces consistent auditable access decisions. Now, benefit of RBAC? Well, it's easy to manage at scale. It reduces the risk of over provisioning. It supports audits and compliance. And it enables faster onboarding and offboarding. So, how do you adapt RBAC? First, identify common roles. Start with the actual job function. Then map the permission to each role. Then create standard role templates, which is standardize the role in your IAM tool for repeatable assignment. Then assign users to roles automatically. Then review and certify roles periodically. And the last is limit exceptions and custom access, which is reduce the ad hoc permissions that don't align with the roles. How do you adapt ABAC? Well, the first is define attribute source. Pull attributes from systems like HRM, etc. Design access policy using logic examples. Configure attribute rules in IAM or policy engines. Test and simulate access outcomes. Continuously monitor and adjust. Benefits of ABAC? Well, it's highly dynamic and context aware. It supports zero trust. It reduces the need for static roles. And it's ideal for fine grained access control. So, in quick comparison, RBAC is role based, ABAC is attribute based. RBAC is moderately flexible, ABAC is highly flexible. RBAC is, from a complexity perspective, simpler than ABAC. ABAC is more complex. Example, RBAC, HR manager's role, access to HR system. ABAC, we look at HR and the location and give the access only to that part of the estate which requires. It's best fit for standard employee access. That is RBAC. For ABAC perspective, it is contextual access and dynamic rules. It integrates well with common IAM tools, but ABAC requires advanced policy engines. So, when do you use both? Well, many organizations use RBAC as foundation and layer ABAC on top of the fine-tuned decisions. Example, RBAC, all HR manager get access to HR apps. ABAC, access allowed only during working hours and from a corporate device. Now that should give you a perspective about RBAC and ABAC and how they can work together and how to integrate it. When it comes to more refinement, you use ABAC. You can start with RBAC and then move to ABAC. That's a more granular control. You're building the tunnel deeper and deeper, and with the window smaller and smaller. Tools that support, well, all the standard tools are supported. In summary, access is based on job roles in RBAC, but access is based on multiple attributes when it comes to ABAC. It is suited for, RBAC is suited for broad controls and ABAC for fine grained controls. RBAC supports zero trust at the baseline. ABAC supports zero trust, it's adaptive and very dynamic. The ideal use case for RBAC is internal staff roles. ABAC is external users, temporary access, high risk apps. Now let's look at implementation, how to go about implementing. Start by identifying and cataloging all business roles across departments. Map permissions and access needed for each role. Standardize roles in IAM systems. Automate role assignment based on attributes. Then conduct periodic access reviews and recertifications. Define users, devices, and environment attributes needed for policy decisions. Then ensure IAM tools and applications support ABAC. Design access policy using logics. The logic is something that you build for your application, for your organization. Avoid picking from some other place and trying to fit it. You can take an idea, but you have to design your own policies based on your business needs. Then test and simulate the policies for edge cases and exceptions. The last is continuously update attributes and refine policies based on usage pattern. Let's now look at the basics of MFA. What's MFA? Well, multi-factor authentication is a security method that requires users to present two or more verification factor to gain access to systems, applications, or data. Instead of relying only on username and password, which can be stolen or guessed, MFA adds an extra layer of protection. From an authentication perspective, there are three types of authentication. Something you know, which could be a PIN or a password. Something you have, a device or a token, which could be mobile phone, smart card, OTP app, etc. And something you are, which is your biometric data, your fingerprint, your face scan. When it comes to MFA, it requires at least two of them to authenticate a user. So why mandate MFA for all users? Well, requiring MFA for every user, not just privileged accounts, significantly reduces the risk of unauthorized access, credential thefts, and account compromise. The key benefits: it stops attackers even with stolen passwords, prevents phishing and credential stuffing attacks, meets compliance requirements, and increases trust in authentication process, and enables adaptive and risk-based access control. What mandating MFA means? Well, mandating FMFA means enforcing MFA across the board. That's for employee, contractors, vendors, administrators, privileged users, remote workforce, hybrid workforce, or users accessing sensitive or regulated systems. From a use case perspective, well, when you log in to a new device, it triggers an MFA. When you have a high value transaction, it requires re-authentication. When an admin access to a server, it enforces strongest MFA method. When the login from a high risk country, you deny access or prompt MFA. Some of the use cases. So now, how do you mandate MFA? Step 1 is conduct user risk assessment. In this, you identify user type and access levels. Prioritize high risk users first, which are admin, finance, and so on. Once done, then you select an MFA method. SMS OTP, TOTP apps, hardware tokens, biometrics, and so on. Select the MFA method. Then enable MFA in IAM platforms. Platform like Microsoft Entra, Okta, and so on. Communicate the policy. Communicate, notify users of upcoming changes, MFA benefits, and how to enroll. Roll out in phases, which is start with high privileged users, then expand it to departments, and then include all users. Then enforce MFA for all access points. Do not keep anything open. Web portals, VPN, email, cloud apps, and APIs. Then monitor compliance, which is track users who haven't enrolled or who are bypassing MFA. Then support exceptions, that is, use temporary MFA exemptions with expiration and justification. Which are the tools which support mandating MFA? Well, there are quite a few. It helps in conditional access for enforcement, it helps with push. Different tools have different capabilities. There are quite native ones, there are strong ones, capabilities, advanced capabilities. Many are popular like Cisco. It works with various apps and VPNs. You can choose based on your business requirement and your company's policies. What's the risk of not mandating an MFA? Well, through phishing, a full account takeover can be done. The credentials can be reused. The impact is lateral movement across systems. From an insider misuse perspective, untracked access to sensitive data is possible. And you would end up having regulatory violations, which is non-compliance and triggering of fines. From a best practice perspective, avoid using SMS OTP alone. Pair MFA with device posted checks. Use context aware MFA. Trigger only when needed. Set grace period for new users to enroll. Require MFA for all VPN, admin, and cloud access. In summary, MFA is using two or more factors to verify identity. Stops most account breaches and reduces password dependency. Can enforce via IAM tools, policy, and staged rollout. Applicable for all users and not just for admins. Can be implemented anytime, especially for remote, cloud, or high risk access. Let's now do a refresher on the JML process. So what is JML process? The joiner mover lever process is a structured approach that governs how digital identities are created, modified, and deactivated as people join or change roles or leave the organization. Why automate GML? Well, manually managing GML process is time consuming, error prone, and risky. Hence, automating GML ensures right access at the right time, revocation of access upon exit, compliance with regulations, synchronization with HR and IT systems, and reduce identity sprawl and over provisioning. So we are now looking at JML process and automating it. So you do the basics and then we go to the step of automation. So the stages are, from a joiner perspective, new user onboarding, identity creation, access provisioning. Mover, whether there is a role change, a transfer, or temporary assignment, access modification if required to. Leaver, where is offboarding, access deprovisioning, and account disablement. So you need to find a method, mechanism, or a tool or a process to automate these three stages. So how do we go about automating the GML? Well, first, integrate IAM with source of truth. The source of truth is should be the HR systems. Pull events like new hire, transfer, or terminations. Next, define role-based access templates. Create standard role profiles for department, job levels, and locations. Link each role to necessary applications, groups, and permissions. Use workflow engines to automate the action. When it comes to joiners, auto create account, assign default roles, and send welcome instructions. When it is about movers, trigger access reviews, modify permission, adjust entitlements. When it's about leavers, disable accounts, remove entitlement, archive logs. When it comes to lever attributes based rules, automatically assign or revoke access based on the title, department, location, or projects. Next, notify the manager or HR when access needs review or manual interventions are required. Next, you move to periodically validate access assigned to JML to avoid access creeps. Then keep a full log of who received what access and when, including changes and deactivations. From a best practice perspective, automate JML for privileged account and sensitive systems first. Then define consistent access bundles for each job function. Only assign what's necessary. Remove old entitlements immediately. Role changes often cause overprivileging. Keep an eye when there is a role change and trigger off a process. For vendor contractors, use expiration policy for auto deactivation. Test your JML flows in staging before production rollouts. What are the strategic benefit of automating the JML process? Well, it improves new hire productivity on day one. It ensures secure mobility and transfers. It prevents ex-employee access risk. It ensures access records are clean and trackable. It strengthens alignment with zero trust and compliance. So now let's look at from a checklist perspective how to go about doing it. First, integrate your IAM with HR system. Auto create user identity and email accounts. Assign default role based access to systems. Notify managers and help desk for onboarding completions. Detect job roles or department changes in source systems. Trigger access modification workflow. Revoke old entitlements and assign new ones. Document changes and update audit logs. Auto disable user accounts upon termination. Revoke all application and system access. This is for the lever process. Archive emails, files, and activity logs. And last is generate compliance report for offboarding. So you have three stages: joiner process, mover process, and lever process. And for each of this process, you have a checklist of activity. About 4 steps to start with. You can define and refine it based on your own requirement, on your organization's guidelines. Now, let's look at regular access certification. What are these? Well, access certifications are periodic review to make sure that only the right people have the right access to the right systems. It's like checking a guest list every few months to ensure that everyone who has a key to your building still works there and still needs access to each room. Well, why are they important? Well, it improves security. They help spot people who have access that they don't need anymore, like former employee or user who change jobs. They are important to ensure compliance. Regulations like SOC, GDPR, HIPAA, PCI require proof that access is reviewed regularly. They are important to reduce risk. That is, they stop access creep, where employees slowly collect too many permissions over time. They are important to create an audit trail. Certification report shows that you have taken steps to manage access responsibly. So, how do regular access certification work? Well, scheduled reviews that is usually done quarterly or semi annually, or can be based on user, system, or access type. Second is review by owners. Managers or application owner receives a list of users and their access. They review, does this person still need this access? The next is approve or revoke. If access is still needed, it's approved. If no longer needed, revoke it immediately. Next is track and report. IAM systems logs every action. Audit reports are generated for compliance teams. Real world example, imagine you manage a team of 10 people. Every quarter, your IAM tool sends you a list of systems your team can access. You go down the list and keep access for the current team members. Remove access for someone who changed role or confirm you have reviewed the list. That's access certification. Let's now look at a checklist. How do you go about it? Starting with, you define the scope of certification, identify systems and application to review, extract the list of users and their access rights, assign reviewers, distribute access review task, review the task, review the access and validate appropriateness, approve valid access and flag off unnecessary access, revoke unnecessary or excessive privileges, document review outcomes, generate compliance and audit reports, and archive certification logs for future audits. Last is schedule the next certification cycle. Monitoring and auditing everything. What does it mean? Track and record every action taken by users, systems, and administrators, and regularly review this record to detect mistakes, misuse, or malicious activity. Think of it like having CCTV and an activity log for all digital doors, bolts, and safes in your organization. Now, why is it important to monitor and audit everything? Well, you can catch unauthorized activities early before it becomes a breach. From a regulation perspective, it requires proof of access logging and auditability. From a risk reduction perspective, monitoring helps identify unusual behaviors like a user accessing data at odd hours. From a forensic perspective, if something goes wrong, logs help you investigate what happened, when, and who did it. So what does auditing include? Well, auditing is more than logging. It means reviewing the logs regularly, running monthly or quarterly report, use automated alerts for risky behaviors, ensure access reviews are completed and documented, track who made what changes and when. Now, why should we monitor or what should we monitor? Well, uh, from a user access perspective, you should track logins, access to sensitive files, system use. From a privileged activity perspective, you should track admin account actions, configuration changes, failed logins, MFA bypass attempts, creation or deletion of users, policy edits, who requested access, who approved it, and whether the access was removed and on time as part of the deep provisioning activity. From a real life example perspective, a system admin logs in at 2 a.m. and downloads payroll data. Without monitoring and auditing, no one notices the unusual behavior. There is no record of what was accessed. But with monitoring, an alert is triggered. The IAM team investigates. Damage is prevented or minimized. IAM Governance Committee. What are IAM governance committees? IAM governance committees are formal groups responsible for setting policies, making decisions, and overseeing how identity and access are managed across the organization. Think of them as the board of directors of IAM, making sure everything is secure, compliant, and aligned with business needs. Now, who should be in the committee? Well, CISO and security heads. The role is the chair of the committee and responsible for the overall IAM strategy for the organization. The IAM program manager who drives operations and executions. We would need people who manage integration and lifecycle event. Example like the IT operation lead. We should bring in people who are hiring, transferring, and terminating inputs. That's from the HR. We need to ensure legal and audit alignments are in place. So hence, we need compliance officers. We need to bring on those with insights on personal data access and protection, which is the data privacy officers. We need some who would help define access based on functional need, that is generally the business unit leaders. Now, why are they needed? Well, they are needed to ensure identity decision supports security and compliance goals. We need to align IAM with HR, IT, legal, risk, and business unit priorities. We need to approve IAM policies, MFA, access review, or zero trust. From a regulatory readiness perspective, it helps satisfy audit, legal, and regulatory requirement. From a continuous improvement perspective, we need to help review metrics, resolve issues, and prioritize IAM projects. Responsibility of the committee. So, what does this committee do? Well, they define the IAM strategy, which is approving the architecture decisions, set and approve policies, which includes the MFA, least privilege, access reviews, GML process, SSO rollouts. Review metrics and dashboards, which is about access violation, provisioning time, review entitlements. Manage exceptions and risk, that is, review the access exceptions, high risk roles, or audit failures. Support communication and training, that is, promote awareness, training, adoption across departments, and guide vendor selection, that is, participate in evaluation of IAM tools. From a real world example, we take a multinational bank creates an IAM governance committee to approve quarterly access review, enforce role based access, resolve conflict between IT and business during access provision. As a result, they reduce the audit finding and improves onboarding time. The benefits of forming the committee? Well, from a strategic focus perspective, it keeps IAM aligned with long term goals. From a cost functional buy-in perspective, it ensures the HR, the legal, IT, and business are working together. From an audit perspective, a committee helps close the GRC gaps proactively. From visibility and transparency perspective, regular reporting improves accountability. It helps decisions are made faster with consensus and authority. So it accelerates improvements, if any. Now let's look at IAM in the era of AI and digital transformation. Well, IAM driven identity management helps predict access modeling, automated risk based access decisions, and intelligent provisioning recommendation. So what is AI driven identity management? AI driven identity management means using AI and ML to help manage user identities, access, and security decisions more intelligently and automatically. AI acts like a smart assistant that watches how people access system and help decide who should get access, when to block it, and what looks suspicious. Do note we have covered this earlier. We're just getting it in a perspective on summary so we can close off this topic. So how does AI help in IAM? Well, it helps to learn normal user behavior and detect unusual activity. Give each user a session, a risk score based on behavioral location. It helps suggest access rights based on similar roles or peer reviews. Flags or blocks suspicious access in real time. No waiting for human review. AI helps IAM get smarter over time by analyzing more activities and patterns. It detects things like dormant account being used again or excessive privilege being requested. Benefits of AI in IAM: detects hidden threats before human can, recommend access based on real usage and not assumption, reduces over provisioning and human error, stops or adjusts access automatically in real time, helps demonstrate proactive access monitoring and risk mitigation. Where does AI fit in IAM systems? Well, AI and ML are commonly used in identity governance tools or behavior analytics platforms or risk adaptive access engines or privileged access management tools. In summary, AI in IAM helps organization move from static rule based access control to dynamic intelligent access decision, enhancing both security and user experience. Let's now look at IAM from remote and hybrid workforce perspective. What is it? It means building identity and access management that allows employees to work securely from anywhere, whether they are fully remote, on site, or switching between both. In plain terms, IAM helps make sure that no matter where someone works, they can securely log in, get the right access, and stay protected. Now, why is it important? Well, modern workforce are no longer tied to office buildings or employees. Employees use personal devices or connect from home, coffee shops, or airports. They access cloud apps like Microsoft 365, Zoom, Salesforce, etc. This flexibility increases the risk. IAM ensures only the right people get the access from the right device at the right time and with strong security. A key IAM capability for remote and hybrid work. With MFA, it adds extra login security beyond just passwords. With SSO, it lets user log in once to access all the approved apps. With device trust and posture check, it ensures only secure, approved devices can connect. With behavior analytics, it flags suspicious access. With just in time access, it gives temporary access when needed, then removes it automatically. With access review, it helps managers check who has access to what, even if they never come to office. From a integration perspective, it supports access to cloud platform like Azure, AWS, GCP, and SaaS apps. Let's look at some real life example. A hybrid worker connect to your company's CRM from a hotel using a personal laptop. IAM requires MFA to verify it's them. It checks the laptops, meets if it meets security policy. It checks if the device is risky or location is unknown. In case it blocks or limits the access, and every action is logged for security review. So, what's the best practice? Well, in best practice perspective, MFA is implemented for all users and admin. It helps password. Why it matters? Well, password alone are too risky remotely. From a role-based access perspective, it gives user only what they need and no more. From automated provisioning and deprovisioning perspective, it adds and removes access quickly when someone joins or leaves. From a visibility perspective, it tracks all access and spots threats quickly. From federation with cloud app perspective, seamlessly connect users to approved apps securely. From a risk-based policy perspective, it blocks unusual access. In summary, remote and hybrid IAM means giving your team safe, seamless, and flexible access without weakening security. It balances productivity and protection in today's cloud first work from anywhere world. Let's now take a look from a checklist perspective. Starts off to check whether is your MFA enforced on all remote and hybrid users. Next is you have to check is our password policy strong and regularly updated. Is single sign-on enabled for all major applications? Are contextual access policy applied? Are device health and posture checks configured? Can the system block or restrict access from unknown or risky devices? Next is, are user behaviors monitored for anomalies? Are alerts generated for unusual access attempts? Is identity provisioning automated and integrated with HR systems? Are users promptly deprovisioned after exit or role changes? Next is IAM integrated with key cloud platform? And finally, are federated identity standards in use? Decentralized identity. Decentralized identity is a new way of managing digital identity that gives people full control of their own identity. Instead of relying on a central authority like a company or government or social media platform, you own your identity and you decide what information to share and with whom and when, all without needing a password stored in someone else's system. How does it work? Well, traditional IAM, your identity is stored and managed by someone else. It could be Google, Facebook, etc., or your employer. With decentralized IAM, your identity lives in a digital wallet. You use DID and unique strings issued to you. Your credentials are issued by a trusted party and stored on your device, not on a central database. You share only the minimum information required. Real life example, well, let's say a computer needs to verify that you are certified in cybersecurity. So instead of logging into their portal with the password, you present a verifiable credential from your digital wallet, say Isaka example. They verify it against the blockchain ledger. No central database is needed in this case. Key components need a decentralized identifier. The role is a unique ID that you control, not tied to central server. Next is digital wallet, where is app where you store your credentials on your phone or device. Next is verifiable credential, which is a proof of identity issued by trusted organization. Next is a blockchain or a distributed ledger, which is a public registry where credentials can be verified without revealing your data. What's the benefit of decentralized identity? Well, you control your own data, you share only what's needed, you reduce the risk of identity theft, has no central database to hack, you keep your credentials across jobs, platforms, and borders, Credentials can be used across systems and organizations globally. Use case perspective, remote onboarding of employee or contractors, students sharing diplomas with employers, travelers verifying health credentials without revealing medical history, citizens accessing government service with one reusable identity. In summary, decentralized identity flips the model. Instead of many organizations storing parts of your identity, you carry your own secure, portable identity and decide who can see what. Passwordless authentication. Passwordless authentication means user can log into systems without using a password. Instead, they use more secure and user friendly methods like biometrics or mobile push approvals or one time codes. You sign in with something you are, like your fingerprint, or have, like your phone, or do, like approving a push notification, not something you remember, which is a password. So, why move away from passwords? Well, problem with passwords are they are easily forgettable, often reused, prone to phishing, and weak to guess. The risks are it leads to more helpless calls. A breach on one site risks all accounts. User can be tricked into giving them away. Hackers use brute force to break in. That's the issue with passwords. What are the different passwordless methods? Biometrics, push notification, which is getting a prompt on your mobile app to approve. OTPs, secure keys like FIDOs to the hardware device like YubiKey or USB token. Magic links, that is a login link sent to your app or mail, or authentication app. Real life example, well, you log into your company portal. Instead of entering a password, a notification is sent to your phone. You tap approve and you are securely logged in. No password involved. Benefits, well, stronger security, better user experience, lower IT costs since there are fewer password reset requests to be held with, and more modern access. It works well with mobile devices and remote work. Where it is used today? Corporate logins, banking apps, cloud services, or customer facing portals. In summary, passwordless authentication replaces fragile, risky passwords with more secure, intelligent, and seamless logging options, making life easier for users and safer for businesses. Let's look at from a checklist perspective. It starts off by defining business goals and user group for passwordless rollout. Once done, it access existing IT infrastructure readiness. Assess. Evaluate and select passwordless methods. Next, ensure support for open standards. Then integrate with existing IAM platforms and identity providers. Test interoperability across devices, browsers, and apps. Design intuitive login flows with fallbacks for inaccessible devices. Pilot with a small group and gather user feedbacks. Implement risk based access policy and fallback authentication options. Document compliance with internal and external regulations. Train users and support teams on passwordless methods and usage. Provide clear self service help and recovery mechanism. Once done, continuously monitor login patterns, device trust, and authentication metrics. Machine identity management. Machine identity management is the process of managing how machines like server, application, containers, or IoT devices identify themselves and securely connect with each other. Just like how users have username and password. While people log in with username and password, machine use digital certificates, keys or tokens to prove who they are, and that needs to be managed properly. Why it is important? Well, modern IT environment are full of automated systems talking to each other. Wherein APIs calling services, microservices exchanging data, IoT device connecting to cloud platforms. Now, if these machines do not properly identify themselves, attacker can impersonate them and access sensitive systems. So, what counts as machine identity? Well, it could be TLS, SLS, SSL certificates or API keys or SSH keys or service accounts or OAuth tokens or Kubernetes secrets. These are all examples. So what does machine identity management include? Well, it includes discovery, that is finding all machine identities across systems and clouds. Lifecycle management, wherein its purpose is to issue, renew, rotate, revoke certificates and keys on time. From a monitoring perspective, it is used to detect expired, weak, or misused machine credentials. From an access control perspective, limits what system or device can talk to each other. From auditing perspective, it keeps logs for compliance and investigation. What can go wrong? Well, if certificate expires, it will break the apps and services. If the APIs are stolen, it can lead to data breaches. If the hard-coded secrets are done, making credential easy for steal from codes, they are hard-coded. Untracked service account, well, they pose invisible risk over time. Real life example, an internal app tries to connect to a payment system using TLS certificate. That is, if that certificate has expired, the connection fails. If it is stolen, an attacker could impersonate the app. Machine identity management ensures the certificate is valid, secure, and rotated regularly. Well, popular solutions or tools include are Benafi, HashiCorp Vault, CyberArk Conjure, AWS Secret Manager, Google Secret Manager, etc. There are many more in the market. In summary, machine identity management is like IAM for non human users. It helps make sure systems, apps, and devices trust each other securely by managing their credentials just like we manage human ones. Let's now take a look from a checklist perspective. From discovery aspect phase, the first is inventory all TLS, SLS certificate, API keys, SSH keys, and service accounts. And identify unmanaged or orphaned machine identity. Once done, you standardize how certificate tokens and keys are issued. Then ensure issuance is tied to automated workflow. Then implement automated key and certificate rotation policy. Ensure short-lived credentials are used where possible. Once done, apply least privilege principles to service accounts and machine identities. Then ensure access is restricted by environments. Set up alerts for expired, weak, or anonymous machine identity behavior. Log all usage of machine credentials. Review and audit all machine identities on a regular basis. Keep audit logs for compliance, reporting, and forensic investigations. Finally, define governance, ownership, and responsibilities for machine identity lifecycle. Converged IAM and cybersecurity platforms. What is it? A converged IAM and cybersecurity platform is a unified solution that brings together identity and access management with core cybersecurity tools under a single platform. This approach replaces scattered siloed security tools with a centralized system that sees and controls both user identity and threats. It's like having one control tower that manages both who can access what and how secure everything is, all in one place. So, what does it combine? It combines IAM, UEBA, endpoint protection, network security, access governance, policy engine, SIEM, and SOAR. Well, it helps to manage users' identity, access control, MFA, combines all of these with detecting unusual logins. It helps to check if the user device is secure and so on and so forth. So, all of this comes under one area of convergence. That's where the whole story comes into play. Why converge IAM and cybersecurity? Well, it helps detect risky access and blocks it immediately if a risk is identified. It uses device, location, time, and behavior in access control. Hence, it is context aware. There are fewer systems to manage and less duplications. It provides one dashboard to track identity, access, and threats. And it's easier to enforce and audit security policies. From a real life example, a user logs in from a personal device late at night. IAM system would validate that identity using MFA. Endpoint security checks the device for antivirus and patches. UEBA flags the behavior as unusual. Zero Trust Network limits the access to only essential application and all activities are logged centrally for audit and alert. That gives you a complete perspective. The tools, you can use it in combination. We discussed most of them already, but in combination it helps to identify risk, provides threat protection, helps with endpoint management, provides device posture, risk signals, behavioral aspects of it. It provides convergence of governance, network segmentation, access control, and so on. So it provides all of this together. In summary, converged IAM and cybersecurity platform blend the management of identities with real-time security controls. This approach delivers smarter, faster, and more secure decision making, essential for zero trust and modern hybrid environments. Let's now look at from a checklist perspective. Well, it defines clear business objectives. First is define. Step 1. Define clear business objectives for convergence. Once done, identify your key stakeholders across IAM, security, IT, and compliance team. Create an inventory of current IAM tools that you have. Create an inventory of all the security tools that you have. Then assess existing integration or overlap across tools. Once done, ensure identity, behavior, and threat telemetries can be unified. Validate that risk signals, whether it can influence access decisions. Identify high risk access scenario and define response policies. Next, ensure policy engine supports context aware and adaptive decisions. Define unified dashboards and alerts for identity and threat monitoring. Once done, plan for real time policy enforcement based on risk and behavior. Once done, establish cross functional IAM security governance committee. Once all of these are in place, then document the roles and accountability across identity and security team. Let's look at governance driven IAM. What is it? Well, governance driven identity and access management is a IAM approach focused on ensuring that the right people have the right access to the right resources and can prove it at all time. GIAM makes sure that access to system is controlled, reviewed, and documented, not just granted. So what makes GIAM different? Well, it focuses on by adding stronger controls, reviews, and auditability. It provides continuous access monitoring, approval, and revocations. It provides policy driven access with business accountability. Key features of GIAM, well, it helps clear policies for who can access what, why, and for how long. It helps with periodic review to ensure access is still appropriate. It designs roles that matches job function and minimizes risk. It tracks every access change for regulation and audits. It's business driven access approval with segregation of duty in place, and it flags or blocks risky access or toxic combinations. So, why adopt governance driven IAM? Well, it helps with compliance readiness, that satisfies the regulatory requirement, different regulations whether GDPR, SOC, HIPAA, PCI DSS, DPDP, etc. It reduces overprivileged access, that is, only appropriate access is granted and maintained. It provides full visibility and accountability. So we know who has access to what and why. It improves security postures by minimizing insider threat and access abuse. It helps with better decision making, uses analytics to review access trends and adjust policies. Which are the tools? All the tools that we discussed earlier. It helps with the identity governance, policy enforcement, role modeling, policies, certification, entitlement management, and so on and so forth. You can use a combination of tools, the ones which matters to you from your organization requirement perspective. A real life example, an employee moves from finance to HR. So GIM ensures that finance system access is revoked, new HR access is requested and approved through policy based workflow, and access review cycle will flag appropriate access if not updated. In summary, governance driven IAM helps organization enforce least privilege, accountability, and regulatory compliance by adding business rules, oversight, and visibility to traditional IAM. So, from a checklist perspective, first is defining your IAM governance objective. It should be aligned with business and compliance goal. Once done, establish a IAM governance board with clear accountability. Followed by implement an automated joiner, mover, lever workflow. Then ensure identity data is synced with HR and authoritative sources. Then define and document access policy for all key applications. Then ensure least privilege and segregation of duties are enforced. Once done, model roles based on job function and access patterns, followed by regularly reviewing and optimizing access roles and entitlements. Schedule periodic access reviews and certification for all systems. Track your completion, exception, and revocation action. Once done, configure policy driven workflow for access requests and approvals. Map your IAM controls to regulatory requirements. Log all access events and changes with context and timestamps. Monitor for anomalies and generate actionable alerts. Post this, need to train staffs on IAM responsibilities, its risk, and your governance policy. I hope this checklist helps you with your planning and strategy making. Just to repeat, this is indicative list. You can start with this if you don't have it, and you can build on this and ensure you customize it for relevance to your organization. Or you can check this list against your and see which are the parts missing if there are any, and you can add them on. With this, we come to the end of this series. So, in conclusion, identity and access management is no longer a back end IT function. It is a strategic imperative for security, compliance, and digital transformation. As attack surface expand and regulatory scrutiny intensifies, IAM must evolve into a proactive, intelligent, and integrated discipline. Enterprise must invest in modern IAM platforms, automate identity lifecycle process, enforce zero trust principles, and ensure continuous governance of access rights. When done right, IAM empowers organization to deliver secure, compliant, and seamless digital experience while minimizing risk and fostering digital trust. With this, we have come to the end of this series. We covered the agenda that was initially planned out. I would like to thank you all. We have reached the end of part 11, and this is the last part of the series. So, thank you. So, before we close this incredible journey of learning and reflection, I want to take a moment to pause, look back, and express my deepest gratitude to the many people who made this series possible. First, to my mentor, Sri Ganapati, Guru Narsimhan, Mahakal, Bhairava, Chayaputra, Narayana, and all my Ganas. Thank you for showing me the path, for challenging my thinking, and for inspiring me to turn knowledge into action. I'd like to thank to my motivation, Ganesh, Dinesh, Harry, Natesh, Nikhil, Chandru, Gopal, Christy, my peers, colleagues, and fellow practitioners. Your collaboration, feedback, and insight brought real world clarity to every framework, principle, and ideas that were discussed. You helped bridge the gap between theory and practice. I'd like to thank all the researchers, authors, and thought leaders. Your work laid the foundation for much of what I have explored with you today. From framework to global governance model, your voice guided and enriched every module. I also like to thank the students and the learner. I'd like to thank you for your curiosity, your question, and your hunger to build a better world. Your engagement keeps this journey live and purposeful. Finally, to the broader community of expert policymakers, advocate, thank you for tirelessly pushing for a world where technology serves humanity and not the other way around. This is just not my work. This is our shared contribution to building a future rooted in trust, fairness, and human dignity. Together, we are creating a legacy of learning, accountability, and hope. So, from bottom of my heart, thank you. Let's keep learning, sharing, and leading with responsibility. The world needs it now more than ever. Take care, stay inspired, and let's continue to shape the future one step at a time. This is your host, Savit Vittal Salian. Namaskar.